Hi folks, welcome to chapter 24. Today I am going to go over a few maintenance type things. The main goal actually is to go ahead with the Series 3 upgrade kit, which involves replacing the 3 axis motors and the 3 drivers, but Tormach recommends as part of that upgrade to do the jib adjustment procedure, which is section 9 in the most recent manual that you can download off Tormach's website. So I'm going to do that as well, and I'm also going to take off my fixture plate table, take a look, make sure everything's okay underneath that. I don't use flood coolant, so I'm not worried about moisture, well, I'm not worried about coolant liquid getting caught in there, but hey, you never know what you're going to find, and I do use misting coolant, so if I have any rust, now is the time to take a look. It's been quite a few months with that table on there. So I'm not going to have the time to go through a full video documentation of the upgrade, but what I think I'm going to do, which should be equally as good, is just take some video throughout the process as I, particularly as I come across anything that the instruction manual may be either lacking, or a lot of times I just find that it's frustrating to think, well, hey, should I have moved the table into a certain position, or any other tips and tricks I come across of my first time going through both the jib adjustment procedure and obviously the first time going through a Series 3 upgrade. So I will share what I learn as we go. Let's dig in. Okay, so adjusting the Z-axis jib. They say there's 2 ways to do it. I'm going to try for the second way that they say is more precise. I'm not so much concerned with being absolutely precise, but it seems like a more intuitive way to do it, and it's basically to measure the backlash with the jibs loose, and then adjust the backlash until it minimizes and then starts to go up again. It would go up again because you've got the jib so tight. I'm guessing that you lose motion, which means the steppers, are telling the driver's telling the stepper to make a step, but the torque of the jib is too hard to overcome, so that means you're a little bit too tight and you back off from there. Makes sense to me. So the way to do the Z-axis is adjust the 2 screws. The first jib screw is right there behind the line, and then the other one is right here. It's tapered down, so when you tighten the top one, it wedges it tighter, and if you loosen the bottom one, it lets it loosen up. So the first step, first thing I'm going to do is measure the backlash as is, just to see where I am and make sure I don't end up worse off than I started. And then the instructions say to loosen the upper screw 8 turns and tighten the lower screw 8 turns. So you're basically moving the whole jib up by position of 8 turns, which obviously loosens it quite a bit. And then you start tightening it down, measuring the backlash. So I'm going to try to measure the backlash in what I hope is the correct way, which is to set a Z0 on my dial indicator, move up and then back down, and see how far off I am or how many lost steps there are. But the other way to measure backlash would be to look at how the mill moves by manually controlling it in the steps that you're taking. I've got Mach 3 set to take half thousandth steps, or 5/10,000ths of an inch. This is a thousandths indicator, so in theory when I press control page up to move in my step rate mode, 1 or 2 steps should take me to 1,000th. And you'll see that first step, there's no movement, that's backlash. The second step I move, and the third step I'm basically on 1,000th. Same thing back down. First step is nothing, then the second 2 match up well. So to have half a thousandth of backlash is, you're winning. No need to do anything there. And they mention in the warranty, or in the user guide here, that on a newer machine there is backlash in the angular contact bearings and the ball nut, which is maybe 1,000th on its own. So again, shouldn't really be anything to tweak here, but I'm still going to go ahead and see if I can do it. Okay, so I loosened the top jib screw and I tightened the bottom one. I'm not sure I did a full 8 turns, but it's loosened, I think, and there's no difference on the backlash when I jog the axis, which I guess makes sense. So now what I'm going to do is start tightening them again until I see more backlash on the indicator, and at that point I'll back off the last turn and then tighten the jib together to make sure it's never loose, and we should be good. Okay, just to clarify, I'm looking at the bottom jib screw. What you do is you loosen that one, and then that lets you tighten the top one that's driving the jib tighter against the ways. And I think I've hit that point where I'll put the camera back on the tripod and show you. I'm just about on 0, and as I jog, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, no movement yet. Full. Yeah, I'm not getting 4 or 5 movements of half a thousand before I get movement in the indicator. That tells me that the jib is too tight, which is what the guide says to do. And now I back off. Let's see, repeat that until the jib said it started to introduce lost motion, then back off to the point just before you started to see that, and that should be good. I don't think I'm going to show you this on the other axis because it's supposed to be the same process, but I'm going to go ahead and do that myself for the first time, and if I see any tips or tricks or quirks, I will let you know here. Okay, I did learn something interesting while doing the x-axis. Basically, I'm still doing Tormach's method, but what I wanted to share with is my explanation of that method, which to me makes a little bit more sense. And look, I'm assuming I'm doing it right. If I'm doing it wrong, I'm sure someone will jump in the comments here and help us all learn, but I think this is the right idea. The 2 screws on the x-axis jib are located right here, and then on the other side, I know that's out of focus, but on the other side of the bed, the X as well. So when you tighten the left side one, you're tightening the jib. So what I did was I first loosened the jib. So I slid the jib the left, and I did that by loosening the left screw and tightening the right screw. I did that a bunch, and basically what that means is the jib is not having any force on the x-axis. It's sort of, x-axis is sloppy, if you will. And I didn't really measure the backlash so much as I measured, I guess it is measuring the backlash, but basically I could move the keyboard 2 clicks, or jogging in half-thousand increments. I could do twice, and then on the third movement I saw action, which tells me that there's 1/1000th of an inch of backlash in the x-axis that's not in the jib. And sure enough, according to the guide, the Tormach manual, that's probably in the ball screw nut. So perfect. So what I then did is exactly what the manual says, like I said, just in my own words, which is I tightened the axis down half a turn or so at a time until I moved the keyboard 3 times, and on that, meaning on the third time I should see movement, and I didn't see movement. And in actuality, these things are fussy, and I quickly tightened it down to where I was really not seeing movement for 4 or 5 clicks, which is still only 2 or 2.5 thousandths. And then I basically just backed off until I got to the point where I was on the third movement, or when I moved the jog 3 half-thousandth increments, I saw the dial indicator move. So that told me that jib should be pretty much snug up against, and it's not loose, but it's as tight as it can be without making the backlash worse. So I actually feel pretty good about that. Like I said, if someone thinks I'm doing this wrong, hop in, let me know, and I'm going to go ahead and do the Y now.